Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and Richa in particular. If Richa was trying to sell me some application on Facebook, trying to sell me some car, that would have been difficult. But Richa was selling me books that are indeed my brightest and some few of my best friends. And Richa, you did that job commendably well. Now let's analyze or break her speech presentation into just two parts, content and presentation itself. What Richa did wonderfully well, and I commend you for that, Richa, are using some of the references like the Goodreads, that's the link, or talking about the list of books that we can read. Now that is something that stuck and people could remember because some of the names were repeated often. Now before I move on to the next part of what was great about your presentation, I'm going to take a moment to analyze on some of the things that could have been better. And I am doing so with Richa's permission since she is at the threshold of becoming a competent communicator. Now Richa, in your content, I felt you could have used more references or quotations or surveys, even from authors, for saying why books are so important as friends for us. Something like some books are to be read, seen, others to be read, and others to be chewed and digested. And when it comes to presentation, I felt you could have used real props. When you're talking about a book and say that this is a book that I found really interesting, you can pick it up and start reading. Now you have set the title and you're also displaying the book, so it sticks and gives an impact so that the audience can remember. And also, there are three aspects in what makes a persuasive speech. It's called the ethos, the logos, and the pathos. Now, ethos and logos are the logic and the emotional appeal that you want to use, that they are your friends or something that you have never read but you can definitely try reading it now. They are the emotional part of it. And the logos is where you use logic, like using the parietal lobe and activate the parietal lobe. Now, how do we use the ethos part of it? How do we set a credential for a user or credentials for a person that this is the person I must listen to because she is going to tell me about books? Now, this is where you take the help of the master of ceremonies and say that this is how you want to be introduced for your project. Where you could have said what are the number of books that you have read or some of the inspirational books, which will set the context and say that yes, I must listen to Richard. Now, I'm sure I have written you down, but this is not here the icing in the cake or the good part. The presentation had something to the hallmark of advanced speakers. She took a cue from the previous speeches and like the reference to Vijay and then talked about it in her speech. We will talk about for it in our advanced speakers. Then having a solid opening and a closure for your speech, as well as using the language, the triads that we had brought up. And with all these tools in your hand, I think I'm going to be inspired by your next presentation. Please deliver the inspire your audience speech at this lecture. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Sanjay, for that.